We were ground zero.
You were upside down and backwards and confused and lost.
It was something I didn't think I would ever see in my lifetime.
Where'd all the money go? Well, gone with the wind.
You know, it was like some demon was coming up from underground and taking it all off.
This whole area was just totally devastated.
There were hundreds and hundreds of people looking for food.
It really looked like an atomic bomb went off.
Nothing ever looked anything like this.
There's no poor me here.
We had to get on the horse and ride.
Now, a WPBF 25 First Warning Weather Special, Surviving the Storm.
Hi everybody, I'm Mike Lyons. Thank you for joining us tonight. In just a few months, it will be 30 years since Hurricane Andrew, a Category 5 hurricane, made landfall right here in Miami-Dade County. On August 24th, 1992, at 5 a.m., Andrew made landfall with winds of 165 miles per hour. One of those targets was Deering Estate, a historic landmark from the 1920s. Millionaire Charles Deering built this winter home here in what is now Palmetto Bay. He could not have predicted that one day it would be underwater. In fact, the storm surge, that wall of water, was 15 feet high right here, about halfway up that palm tree. That's just one example of the power of a Category 5 hurricane. Now, meet two photojournalists from the Palm Beach Post. Tiffany Kinney shares their photos, examples of Hurricane Andrew's vengeance.
I'd covered a few hurricanes myself, but nothing ever looked anything like this. I'm Lannis Waters. I was a photojournalist for the Palm Beach Post when Hurricane Andrew came ashore. We had chartered a plane and we were on the way to Key West, myself and a reporter. After we took off, the forecast changed so that the storm was going to hit further north, so we made the decision to land in Marathon.
So this photo is as you were flying south before Andrew.
Yes, we were flying south. These are people evacuating, and you can see, I think, how slow the traffic's moving because people are standing outside their cars.
Wow, that was intense. When you arrived in Florida City, is that when it hit you, the enormity of this storm?
When we first came into town, we started seeing buildings that were either piles of rubble or just heavily damaged. We didn't see many people out at all. And then we came across the Gold Coaster Mobile Home Park, and from outside the walls you could tell that the place had just been flattened. So we found the entrance and went in and couldn't find anyone at first. I climbed up a small tree that most of the limbs were broken off, but I could get 4 or 5 feet off the ground and saw in the distance some movement. So we went and tracked down Gary Davis, who was standing outside his mobile home wearing a plastic trash bag holding Boo Boo, one of his 2 chihuahuas. He had spent the night he started out in his home, and as it fell apart, he had moved over into his neighbor's home for a while, and then as it fell apart, he spent the rest of the night in his pickup truck with Boo Boo, and the windshield eventually blew out. He said at one time the truck was blown down the road so that he could smell the tires burning, scraping against the road.
And when you found him like this, I mean, was he?
He was pretty much like he looks. He was dazed, he hadn't slept at all. I imagine he was terrified.
That photo is pretty iconic when it comes to Hurricane Andrew.
That the scene behind him was pretty much like much of the area. It wasn't just the kind of hurricane damage that we've seen up here in our part of South Florida. It was a devastation like, I'd never seen before.
At what point did you say, whoa, this is huge, this is a big story?
From the air, when I first got down into southern Dade County, into Homestead and Florida City, that's when I knew this was I'd never seen anything like it. I'm John Lopino, and I was a photojournalist and photo editor at the Palm Beach Post during Hurricane Andrew. I was in charge of putting the photographers and reporters in different places in South Florida.
And John, you were in the air.
I shot damage on the way down, and as we flew from Palm Beach to Homestead, you could see the damage picking up, and then at a certain point in Dade County, it really looked like, cliche expression is atomic bomb went off. It did. I mean, everything was flattened. What amazed me was the number of roofs gone and shingles gone and buildings flattened. Just totally flattened like a tornado. we were flying around and you don't know where you are. I mean, all the street signs are gone. So you have no idea the exact point, and you want to know for a caption. We found Country Walk. I couldn't believe all the concrete telephone poles were snapped. I mean, in a row, down the road. I've never seen anything like that. At that point, garage doors weren't reinforced, so a lot of times you would see the doors down and the car inside the house.
Wow.
Being pushed inside by the wind.
Oh my.
That was a nursery, a palm tree nursery, just flying over it. I mean, it just made a pattern and you couldn't resist. I mean, it was horrific. But most of the times I would drive like crazy and drag the reporter to try to get to where the eye is going to be, and we never did in all those years of chasing hurricanes. And then after seeing Andrew, I said I will never go to the eye again. So I learned my lesson by just looking at the pictures.
You have to be proud of the work your team did during Andrew.
Everybody just worked together to do their job, and it just a wonderful, wonderful group of photojournalists, but also human beings.
Those amazing photographs from all 15 photographers from the Palm Beach Post earned them a nomination for the Pulitzer Prize. Now, in the weeks and months after Hurricane Andrew, as you might suspect, it was chaos. Shelters, supplies, they were in demand, but help came from the military. Tonight, Felicia Rodriguez shares a very personal story, how her father and her brother answered the call for help.
This whole area was just totally devastated.
As he looks out over Harris Field and Homestead, my dad, Angel Rodriguez, remembers a much different scene.
That area over there was where we actually went ahead and set up a distribution line in order to provide hurricane relief to a community which was very much in desperation.
As the commandant of the Marine Corps League Miami detachment, he got a call from the commander of Homestead Air Force Base.
It was kind of a call to action that there were hundreds and hundreds of people that were showing up at the base looking for food, looking for shelter, looking for water, looking for all kinds of necessities.
My dad called the Marine Corps League out of Newport Richey, asking for hurricane relief supplies. Within 3 days, 3 5-ton military trucks packed with food, water, and clothing arrived in Homestead.
And you could see how big that distribution line was. It was almost like an L shape. You could actually see starting from here and then all the way on this way. These are the Young Marines of the Young Marines of Dade, which I brought down with me.
The Young Marines is a program for teens to help build leadership skills and teamwork.
What you're looking at here is the distribution line where I have a few of my Young Marines. And then on the left there you see the huge concrete tower.
6 teens went down with him to Tent City. For 5 days, they endured the sweltering South Florida heat, distributing food during the day.
We were actually living there. We were sweating like they were sweating. We were eating the same thing that they were eating.
At night, they slept in tents, like the Marines and the families who had lost everything.
This is something that happens to other countries, right? The humanitarian assistance, disaster relief, what the Marine Corps did. The Marines went down there, set up this tent city. I just remember, like, this is our home. This is our neighborhood. This is happening. We played football on that Harris Field. Really surreal to be in that situation at that point in time.
My brother Angel was 17. He had just graduated high school 2 months before Andrew hit. He was planning to enlist in the Marine Corps.
It was a sign that I was doing the right thing. You know, hey, I'm doing what the Marines are doing, which is what I wanted to do. So that was reassuring. And again, I was serving our people, serving our community.
Angel enlisted later that year and went on to serve 24 years in both the Marine Corps and Navy Reserves. He spent almost a year in Afghanistan.
It's not enough to donate here or donate there. It was, what can you do? What action can you take? How can you make a difference? And that was certainly impactful for me to see and to live through.
Their community service earned them special recognition from the Marine Corps' top brass.
During our Marine Corps Ball, we had the Commandant of the Marine Corps, Carl Monday, actually came over to me and thanked me at the bowl, and also thanked my young Marines.
But it was never about recognitions or honors, just my dad's willingness to help his community, as well as teach a group of boys a life lesson that would hopefully stick with them.
This was an opportunity for me to show these youngsters what community service is all about.
What an amazing family. What a great team. Just like every place here in Miami-Dade County, Homestead Air Force Base, it felt the full fury of Hurricane Andrew.
In August of 1992, the Hurricane Andrew came through, and this is what was left of that F4 that was sitting on static display. People were just in regular prepare mode. They were preparing for what could be a Category 1, Category 2, Category 3 hurricane. They weren't preparing for what actually happened.
It's safe to say that no one was prepared for Hurricane Andrew, the Category 5 hurricane that slammed into Miami-Dade and Homestead Air Force Base. That base was home to the 482nd Fighter Wing and Maintenance Squadron, one of the crown jewels of the Air Force. As the storm approached, those jets were flown to another base in Ohio.
You evacuate everybody, you evacuate all the aircraft, and you tied on all the equipment, and you have a ride-out team. But they didn't actually know what hit them until it went through.
Sergeant Tim Norton, a member of the Maintenance Squadron, rode out the storm at his in-laws' house in Kendall.
Right after the storm went through, I made my way back down here to the base, and that's when I saw the destruction. It looked just like an atom bomb had exploded down here.
Some of the experienced officers explained that we could not even accomplish this kind of destruction with bombs. It was that bad. It was a destruction that they saw.
That destruction turned personal for Sergeant Norton, whose home was destroyed.
Electricity was out for about 3 months. All the high transmission lines from Turkey Point were down. So until those got rebuilt, nobody down here was getting any power. So it was really chaos.
Sergeant Norton's home and Homestead Air Force Base were rebuilt.
It's amazing from what it went to in '92 to what it is now.
Today, Homestead Air Reserve Base is home to Customs and Border Protection, the Coast Guard, and the Florida Air National Guard. Occasionally, the base hosts an air show attracting hundreds of thousands of people. And every year, preparations are made for another hurricane.
They always plan for a Category 5 because a Category 5 came through here, so now they know what that's like.
After destroying Homestead Air Force Base, Hurricane Andrew headed for Zoo Miami. Meteorologist Sandra Shaw has that story.
So this is the original bathroom where the flamingos were put in during Hurricane Andrew. We use the public restrooms because there's no windows, it's easy to clean as a tile floor, and as disgusting as it may sound to some people, it's a good source of water.
Almost 3 decades later, wildlife expert and photographer Ron McGill stands inside the bathroom where he took one of the most iconic photos during Hurricane Andrew.
This place was leveled. This whole aviary came down like a house of cards, and basically we lost close to 100 birds in here. You know, it's like some demon was coming up from underground and taking it all off. So I cut out all the headlines from the first 7 days, and it turned out that one of the top stories was the zoo unbelievable devastation, and that's actually a picture of me holding a diker that was born during the storm. The winds were so strong that this track, this solid metal track, tens of thousands of pounds of steel, was taken off the stanchions and twisted like a coat hanger. Even the stanchions were twisted like they were made of clay. When we looked at that kind of damage, we understood the incredible power of these winds. Well, this is the marquee exhibit at the zoo from the time we opened. It's the Tiger Temple, and you can see the tiger there in front of the temple.
McGill has passed this tiger exhibit endless times, but never forgets Naomi Browning, a 12-year-old who volunteered at Zoo Miami in the 90s.
She loved this place, and she was with her mother in bed during the storm. And the storm was ravaging around the house. One of the last things that Naomi said to her mother was, "I'm so worried about the animals at the zoo." And soon after that, a huge beam came through the wall and killed her instantly in the bed. Thoughts of Naomi bring a smile to our face before they bring tears.
After 42 years, McGill's done his share of animal conservation.
I want to see some teeth.
And is still at home with the people who pass through the winding pathways of the zoo.
It's hard to believe it's been 30 years. You know, I feel like it was yesterday, but I'll never forget the sound of that storm.
McGill says that contrary to popular belief, no animals actually escaped Zoo Miami during Hurricane Andrew. Rather, the wild animals, parrots, monkeys, and pythons, were actually people's pets. For Surviving the Storm, Sandra Shaw, WPBF 25 News.
This is our tower here. So this is where we collect samples.
Science behind hurricanes. Next, the cutting-edge technology being used to help forecast massive storms. Plus, putting drones to work. But these aren't the kind you're thinking of.
How bad was it?
85% of our town was destroyed.
The journey to rebuild an old Florida beachside city.
September 1st will mark the 3rd anniversary of Hurricane Dorian. Many of us remember how South Florida was spared while the Bahamas got battered by the Category 5 hurricane. The storm slammed the northwest islands of Abaco and Grand Bahama for nearly 2 days before finally moving away. Dorian was one of the strongest Atlantic hurricanes and the most powerful hurricane to ever hit the Bahamas. Many of us will never forget that Hurricane Dorian was supposed to make landfall in Palm Beach County and the Treasure Coast. But new information from advanced computer models, the hurricane hunters, and satellites changed that forecast. Meteorologist Chris Martinez now with the new technology that will be used this hurricane season.
Off the warm waters and below the blue skies off Virginia Key, there's more than a steady ocean breeze going on.
This is our tower here. So this is where we collect samples.
A handful of scientists are at work at the Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science. Professor Cassandra Gaston is studying Saharan dust coming off the coast of Africa. The first island the dust hits in the Caribbean is Barbados, which is where the longest-running research facility is located.
We do a mix of measurements in the lab. So right now we're just sampling laboratory air, but what we usually do is we'll sample that air outside of the lab. In the summertime, you get intense heating of the African continent, and it causes this hot, dry plume of dust to rise up into the atmosphere.
This device then breaks down the sample into particles to examine their impact on hurricanes and cloud formation.
Why do we need all this to study the Saharan dust layer?
These pieces of equipment are really key for being able to predict how the dust is going to impact the storm system.
The end goal is to see how the dust tears apart a hurricane.
Seeing the links between dust and hurricanes is really important for forecasting capabilities.
Farther north along the Space Coast in Melbourne at Florida Tech.
Here's an example of one of our forecasts.
Associate Professor Dr. Robert Weaver is looking to be one step ahead of storm surge threats, the #1 killer during a hurricane.
So is it safe to say if the hurricane was just sitting literally right offshore and the winds were coming out of the north, that would probably have a bigger impact on the intracoastal areas?
Absolutely.
Multiple sensors measuring wave heights, wind, and atmospheric pressure are set up across the Atlantic and the intracoastal. They help pinpoint where the water will impact coastal neighborhoods the hardest.
So this is why these kind of high-resolution estuary models are so important.
Just a few miles up the road in Satellite Beach,
it's coming out.
A one-of-a-kind research project is underway.
Excellent, not bad at all. So this thing weighs about 125 pounds, so it's not light. It's not light. But I do refer to it as an R2-D2 unit.
This is a heavier lift for professors and grad students, also from Florida Tech, studying how wind affects people and property.
We want to mitigate the damage, right? Every time there's a hurricane, you see all these blue tarps.
Structural engineers are researching the integrity of building codes.
It's a radar, referred to basically as a LiDAR. Basically the beam's sweeping out like an ice cream cone. So it's just it's measuring the winds basically up to about 1,000 feet.
And meteorologists want to know how and when wind gusts can damage your home.
As these squalls come through, the rain falls through that high velocity air and drags that down to the surface. And that's where you get all those gusts. You know, like anything, when you're reading the back of a label of a can, right, it helps to know what everything that's inside there, all the ingredients, so you can decide whether to buy it or not.
You need lots of ingredients. In other words, lots of good information to come up with an accurate hurricane forecast. And that includes what's going on inside the storm. Meteorologist Brooke Silverang has a fascinating look at drones, but not the kind you're thinking of.
Sail drones collect information from the surface of the ocean.
Our main goal is to improve hurricane intensity forecasts.
Greg Foltz, a NOAA oceanographer, was part of a groundbreaking 2021 mission, launching the first ever sail drone into a Category 4 hurricane.
You can think of the sail drone like a very large surfboard.
The device sent back real-time data from inside Hurricane Sam, which produced waves more than 50 feet high and had sustained winds over 125 miles per hour.
So we control it from our computers through satellite communications, telling it where to go, directing it. And they have a sail. So these are special sail drones with a shorter sail to make them more stable so they don't get damaged in the large waves of a hurricane.
This year, NOAA will station 4 10 by 20 foot sail drones in the Caribbean and Western Atlantic. And that's not all.
We're planning to coordinate our sail drones with aerial drones. So these are flown up in the atmosphere.
Joe Cione, a NOAA research meteorologist, is in charge of testing brand new aerial drones. The disposable drones will be sent into the eye of the storm from the Hurricane Hunter aircraft.
We go from the top of the ocean, to what we call the boundary layer of the hurricanes.
This is where drones will gather and send back real-time pressure, temperature, wind, humidity, and sea surface temperatures.
The drone will be flown from 2,000 feet inside of the hurricane environment and then stay below 1,000 feet. The goal is to fly the drone around 500 feet or less from the surface of the storm.
NOAA Chief Test Pilot Lieutenant Commander Adam Abitbol will deploy the aerial drone to meet the sail drone. Both will work simultaneously, creating a double powerhouse of technology.
This being a controllable aircraft with propulsion, we can actually fly it around. We can actually get it to where we have maybe areas of interest or get it to a place that we're looking to collect specific data.
Coming up, why we need hurricanes, the connection to the balance of the earth.
We had a whole entire home that ended up in our parking lot.
And then when you actually came back, what did you think?
The stories from the people who lived through a Cat 5 hurricane.
Here at WPBF 25, we provide your first warning for tropical storms and hurricanes. That means before, during, and even more importantly, afterwards. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. This is Hurricane Ida, Category 4 hurricane that made landfall near New Orleans. Devastating storm, winds of 150 miles per hour, but one of the most accurately predicted storms in hurricane history. Only 2 people died directly from the storm, and they were being foolish. They were surfing. Yet after the fact, another 24 people lost their lives when the sky was blue. We prepare you before, during, and really important, after the storm. That's something you need to think about as we embark on the 2022 hurricane season.
Thankfully, Category 5 hurricanes like Dorian and Andrew, they don't come along very often. And in fact, when you look at the entire hurricane season, which runs for 6 months, hurricanes themselves are pretty rare. On average, we get 7 in the Atlantic Basin. But here's the crazy part. We actually need hurricanes. Yeah, we need hurricanes. Here's meteorologist Glenn Glazer to explain.
Planet Earth is in a constant struggle to find balance.
In the lower latitudes, the sun shines brighter and longer. It's the opposite in the northern latitude, closest to the poles. What that does, it creates a deficit, a difference in heat.
And what does our planet do to try to correct these differences in temperature? It creates weather systems, some small and some much bigger.
Hurricanes typically form during the summer, both in the northern hemisphere summer and in the southern hemisphere summer. And a lot of what they do is they actually transport energy. Since they form relatively near the equator in general, they transport energy from the equator towards the pole. So that's one of that's the primary reason why we have hurricanes.
But while hurricanes are important to the planet, as Floridians, we know how devastating they can be to people and property. So should we try to do something?
All the different ideas people have had about, seeding hurricanes and trying to, God forbid, drop bombs on hurricanes, like they basically all failed just because hurricanes are very powerful heat engines, and so it's really, we as humans are very puny in comparison.
To me, I don't know, as a scientist, my sense is do not mess with Mother Nature, okay? The processes that take place in Mother Nature are there for a reason. They just don't happen for nothing.
Reasons like heavy rainfall to diminish droughts and moving sand to help replenish barrier islands that protect us.
They are a necessary element of the Earth climate system. And so I think that's how we need to think of it. I like to think more about, okay, rather than thinking of getting rid of them, how do we mitigate their impacts? How are we proactive? How can we be proactive to prepare for them and mitigate the impacts that come along with them?
The good news for us is with new technology like the launch this year of the $11.7 billion GOES-T weather satellite, the human race will have more advance notice than ever before, giving us more time to prepare during this hurricane season. For Surviving the Storm, I'm meteorologist Glenn Glazer.
Where would you assess Mexico Beach today, 3.5 years after the hurricane?
Almost wiped off the map. The fight to make a comeback. You're watching a WPBF 25 First Warning Weather Special, Surviving the Storm.
We were ground zero. 18.5 feet storm surge, 160-mile-an-hour winds. 85% of our town was destroyed. And to clarify that, they were either deemed non-habitable or gone. It was something I didn't think I would ever see in my lifetime. And I've been here almost 70 years.
You got to recover. You have to rebuild. How do you do it? How do you start?
When I walked down the streets of our little town, I had no idea what it was going to take to make ourselves whole. I mean, I didn't even recognize our own city. The best way to start was those that were left here. We gathered every day and we talked about what we could do to help one another. That's all we did. We didn't think past the next day.
Walk down any street in Mexico Beach today and you'll see evidence of Hurricane Michael. For example, this was someone's home. Today, it's a concrete slab. But at the same time, look around and you'll see Mexico Beach being reborn as a building boom continues here in the city.
Michael gave us a clean slate. We built back Maximum Hardware Store.
So you closed for 5 weeks. What about your home?
We stayed in our home.
Your home was okay?
And it survived. It sure did.
Wow.
It was remarkable. Hey, Chuck. Hey, I'm great.
And it was obviously vital to the community to have the store open.
Oh my, we were, again, I can't tell you how many people would come and shop and say thank you. This little red warehouse is where we moved our business to. It survived. It's still in the same state. We haven't done anything to it. A friend of mine, the day after the storm, brought me that American flag painted on a piece of roof metal. I still put it up there. There was so much devastation.
And they took the time.
And there's a guy that at night painted that, brought it up here to me the next morning and said, hey, just want to give you this. And name was Richard Zipper. Never forget it. Never forget it. We just try to have a good time. We're not here to set any kind of world speed record.
No. So this was our pier here in Mexico Beach. This was at down 37th Street. You can kind of see all of these condos here that were completely gone. Every single one of these were destroyed. Down at the end of the road is where the pier started, and this entire structure ended up about half a mile west of where it was that morning, out into the woods of Tyndall. We had a whole entire home that ended up in our parking lot.
And then when you actually came back, what did you think?
It was unbelievable how bad it was.
We're right across from the water.
Yep.
The surge comes in.
Yep.
How high did it get?
So we actually have the mark right about here. I would call that 4 foot. On the other side of our marina here is where Nate and Bill, the owners of the marina, were at during the hurricane. They were on the top floor, and they watched the water rise over the roofs of just about every single one of them.
You look around, and it's like every day is tough. How do you fight through all that?
It was very heartbreaking for us, but it was like, you know, we had to get on the horse and ride. 2056.
Yeah, man.
Alrighty.
The best part is, the next time a hurricane comes, you're out of here.
Baby's on a hitch and gone. We had a thriving business here called Killer Seafood. But the day of the hurricane, I woke up. I've got video of me going down to the beach. You can still see the beach. The waves are calm. But 4 hours later, everything broke loose. We had the walls of the inside of the place covered with dollar bills, everybody's autographed dollar bills. I couldn't tell you how many thousands of dollars were in there. But that was a subject for a long time after the hurricane. What happened to all the dollar bills? Where'd all the money go? I said, well, gone with the wind. I thought we'd have something left of the restaurant when we got back here, but lo and behold, there was really nothing. Everything of mine that was on this site had washed upwards of a mile inland. The only thing we found was Captain Killer, our mascot here. When the people found him and brought him back to him, they go, hey, you know, we found him. He's a little beat up. He's got a little chip on his shoulder. I went, he just went through a hurricane. Of course he's got a chip on his shoulder. I've got a chip on my shoulder.
So cell phone service was down. I didn't know where to go. I was lost. And for a town that's only 4 miles wide and 5 miles deep, how do you get lost in something so small? But I was lost. My landmarks were gone, streets were gone, housing was gone. Housing was in the middle of the highway. I mean, you were upside down and backwards and confused and lost. So this is the old Welcome Center, and like the roof was torn off, but we sat on these steps. We managed to clipboards and have a meeting and figure out where to go from there.
This was a major milestone in the recovery of Mexico Beach. 2 years after Hurricane Michael hit, this gas station reopened. Even today, it remains the only gas station in Mexico Beach.
Their grand opening day was on a Saturday in the pouring down rain of all days, but it was a monumental occasion for Mexico Beach to have a gas station back open. We get our first hotel back open. The Driftwood Inn, the Wood family has been working diligently for the past 3.5 years to rebuild, and they are coming back online of June of 2022. So it's a big deal in Mexico Beach.
Can you put in perspective what it's going to be like to have the first hotel back in Mexico Beach?
You know, this is a landmark in Mexico Beach. Even before coming here, I'd heard of it and just excited to see this place come back to life.
You can have weddings here, you can have events here. I mean,
That's right.
I mean, look at that. That's just serenity. It's perfect. Here's the view. You have to have large windows or doors in every unit, right? To enjoy the view.
That's right.
You have to have that. Wow. Spectacular. Look at this. It's just spectacular.
People come here for what we don't have. You know, there's not a red light. There are no goofy golf, movie theaters. If you like that kind of stuff, you know, we're probably not for you.
How high was the water from the storm surge of the hurricane?
So it got about right here.
We were here about 6 months after Hurricane Michael, and we walked around and we saw slabs where homes stood, but at the same time we saw for sale signs and we saw sold signs
And again, this was 6 months after the storm. I was a little surprised by that, but then maybe I wasn't so surprised knowing how things can change.
Yeah, there are a lot of outsiders that had never heard of Mexico Beach. They heard of it because of the news coverage on Hurricane Michael. They realized everything's going to be nice and new and wanted to be a part of it. We've sold 842, that's our company, since the storm. It was going to be a temporary sign that 3.5 years later, we got a few customers that like to see, hey, what'd y'all do that week? So every Friday we change the number. We usually sell about 10 a week these days, so real popular area.
What do we have here?
Today we have mullet and red snapper, a little bit of grouper.
And you have fresh shrimp as well?
We have fresh shrimp, and we try to keep everything as local as possible. It's truly a family-owned and ran business. Booming. Everybody wants to come to Mexico Beach. Our little quiet, family-oriented beach is hot on everybody's list.
Where would you assess Mexico Beach today, 3.5 years after the hurricane?
There's no poor me here. There's no poor me. We understand where we live, and we're going to pay that price, and hopefully, you know, we won't draw that short straw again, but if we do, we're going to be much better prepared for it, I can tell you.
You still have a ways to go, but you still want to have that great feeling once again, back to the good old Mexico Beach.
Yes, sir, it won't take long. Like I said, we're about 90% there. The last 10% is, you know, we can see it in the future, and we're ready to get to that point.
We're still a very small seaside fishing community, and that's what we'll always be. It's still here, and it'll always be here.
And if you're wondering what happened to all those dollar bills, incredibly, more than $3,000 was recovered. It was given back to Michael, and he donated it to the Humane Society.
Baby shark,
The way one organization is helping families stock up on certain baby items for free.
All right, it's hurricane season and we're trying to get you prepared, right? Well, let's talk about models today. There are multiple different models. Take a look at all of these. These are global models that we can use to predict what's in the tropics. But what you're usually used to are two global models, one being the GFS. This is what the GFS is showing right now. So this is good, particularly good at pinpointing what could go on in the tropical Atlantic. But you've also heard a lot about the Euro. The Euro model, a little better when it comes to the tropical Atlantic, but the two main models that we use, especially to prepare you, are the GFS and the Euro.
South Florida is experiencing a population boom. Thousands of newcomers have moved into our area, folks who may never have experienced a hurricane. Now, if you fall into that category and this is your first hurricane season, it's important to know your evacuation status and where you would go if ordered to evacuate. To find out that important information, go to our hurricane guide on WPBF.com. Now, if you're a new mom, you have a little extra to worry about this hurricane season. Meteorologist Vanessa Vanette, who, by the way, is a new mom, has found a nonprofit organization in West Palm Beach with some free help.
Baby shark,
11-month-old Diari shines bright every day, but when the dark clouds start rolling in, her parents need to have a plan. Inflation, supply chain problems, and recalls are 3 roadblocks for parents this year. That's where the Cotton Bottom Diaper Bank comes in.
It's our job as the community to make sure that we think of the littlest ones and their needs start at diapers. It's their first need besides food.
The National Hurricane Center actually recommends to have 50 to 100 diapers and 8 extra packs of wipes.
The nonprofit organization says there are more than 19,000 families in Palm Beach County living below the federal poverty line. And right now, it's hard to find the basics.
baby formula. It's running low, stores are running out.
When it comes to formula, parents are finding a lot of empty shelves.
Inflation means that everything is going up at the same time.
Business consultant Mark Parks recommends building up baby supplies that are available now, then keep adding to your reserves little by little if you're on a budget.
But really, you just want to have a strategy to know exactly what you need and make sure that's what you get.
As for Diari, she will soon be joined by her baby brother at the height of hurricane season in September.
Just to, be able to receive something that big, and we're just beyond grateful.
Finding formula is a challenge. Experts say to ask your pediatrician for coupons and samples to help you out. For Surviving the Storm, I'm Vanessa Vinetz.
You want to make sure that you and your family are prepared. Take out your phone and scan the QR code on your screen. That takes you straight to our hurricane guide on WPBF.com. And while you're there, check out our storm shorts, quick hurricane information under 1 minute. Every year at the start of hurricane season, I'm guessing you're like me, you wonder, is this the year we're going to be hit by a hurricane? Well, now, for the very first time, we can give you a pretty good answer. Here's meteorologist Glenn Glazer.
We are all used to seeing hurricane season forecasts that show us how many storms we could see in a season, how many of those storms could become hurricanes, and how many of those hurricanes could become major hurricanes, Category 3 or higher. But does that type of forecast really help you plan your summer and your fall? This year, your WPBF First Warning Weather Team has put out our exclusive hurricane season forecast. It's based on a very particular forecasting method called the LRC, which enables us to not only tell when storms will develop, but also where they will develop and where they will be headed. We can tell you right now, Floridians really need to pay attention this hurricane season. You'll find our exclusive WPBF hurricane season forecast on WPBF.com and also on our WPBF Facebook page. It's just one more tool we want to give you to help keep you safe this hurricane season.
If a storm hits and you aren't near your TV or you lose power, we're committed to keeping you informed. You can listen to our live coverage on our trusted radio partners, Sunny 107.9, New Country 103.1, X 102.3, Fox Sports 640 South Florida, True Oldies 95.9 and 106.9, or The Surf 92.5 and 101.7. Thank you for watching our program tonight. Of course, this is day one of the 6-month-long hurricane season, and you can count on us to be with you every step of the way. Our number one priority is your safety. Again, thank you for watching. A big thank you to the folks here at Palmetto Bay, the Deering Estate, and especially the Stonehouse, celebrating its centennial this year.